Halloween Horror Nights is in its 30th year of operation. You probably know the unofficial face of the event, Jack the Clown, but do you know his whole story? Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into Jack the Clown on Season 1, Episode 2 of Countdown to HHN.
Welcome back to the channel that takes you through the fog with episode 2 of our Countdown to HHN series. But before we do dive into today's video, if you guys are new here to the channel, we talk about all things Orlando theme parks related, but with our favorite event on the horizon, it's all been about HHN. So if you're new here to the channel, be sure to subscribe and give this video a big thumbs up, for it does help us to create much more content for all of you guys and to continue our countdown series. But now moving forward with today's video, we're going to be visiting and telling you guys all about the history of one of the most famous icons in Halloween Horror Nights, Jack the Clown.
We'll be traveling back to the start of Jack the Clown, as well as how he got his gig at HHN and the role that he'll be playing in this year's event. Jack will be making a return for the 30th anniversary this year, and apparently he will be everywhere. Now, he is one of the original main icons of Halloween Horror Nights, but he is undoubtedly one of the biggest fan favorites of the icons. Jack has appeared multiple times at the event, with his first appearance being in 2000 for Halloween Horror Nights 10.
But the history and the story of Jack goes further back than that. Born in the late 1800s at a place called Shady Brook Arrest Home and Sanatorium, John Jack Schmidt, yes, his name is technically John, alongside his little brother Eddie, grew up in a very poor and pretty abusive family. But years later, Jack would end up escaping and running away from that home and ended up joining the circus.
He entertained children while working as a carnival performer for Dr. Oddfellow's Carnival of Thrills. Jack used his job to lure and capture children from the carnival. Eventually, this string of missing children got FBI attention, and they ended up looking into these disappearances. The trail eventually led them closer to the Carnival of Thrills and subsequently Jack.
Now, knowing that the FBI was on his tail for these kidnappings, on Halloween night in 1920, Jack went to Dr. Oddfellow and told him about what he has done in hopes that the doctor would kind of help him conceal this and keep the FBI and local law enforcement at bay. But unfortunately for Jack, Dr. Oddfellow also had a pretty dark past and was being sought out by the law for a freak accident that he had years prior that actually killed a couple of the guests that visited. So he couldn't have law enforcement or the FBI poking around his little carnival of miscreants, and decided to get rid of Jack altogether. What he did was ask Jack, hey, where exactly are these kids that you hid? And Jack took him to his traveling coach and showed where he had these 13 bodies stuffed into 3 small trunks.
After being shown the bodies, Dr. Oddfellow knew that he had to get rid of Jack somehow, so he had him murdered. And this is where we are introduced to Jack's box. Now, if you've attended Halloween Horror Nights before, or you've seen any of the advertisements, you may be familiar with Jack's infamous box.
Yeah, now the story behind Jack's box is that when he was murdered, his body was actually stuffed inside of this box. Now, the box was sealed up and hidden alongside of those small trunks that had the kids inside of them as well, inside of one of the carnival exhibits called the House of Horrors. But years down the road, Dr. Oddfellow ended up selling the carnival and went ahead and split up each exhibit and those dark ride attractions and sold them off to different owners across the United States. Fast forward to 60 years, we had the great old BBC come to America to do a filming of dark rides and carnival attractions, and that's where we pick up our story again.
The camera crew stumbled upon the House of Horrors abandoned in a Louisiana junkyard. As they entered the house, they smelled decay that got stronger the further they got inside. Just as the smell started to become unbearable, they discovered the 3 small trunks as well as the one large box with a letter on each side spelling out J-A-C-K.
Jack. In case you didn't know, it's Jack. Now, the box had a large crank on it, which for some reason the host of his camera crew decided to start cranking it. What an idiot. But as he cranked it a couple of times, eventually some little musical note started playing, and then it stopped. When the camera light that the camera guy had on the box completely died. So then, of course, in every horror or haunted movie there is, the box all of a sudden started playing its own music by itself, and sure enough, when the music ended, Jack himself popped out of the box.
The trunks and Jack's box were shipped to the coroner's office, but before they could make it there, they disappeared into the night after a freak accident. And it just so happens that this occurred on Halloween night because, of course, they decided to ship this creepy box to the coroner's office on Halloween.
And it was also around midnight, so I mean, just make it perfect, why not? And to add to all of that spookiness, about a week later or so, the camera crew for that BBC show or whatever, they were found dead, mysteriously. Who could have done that? I don't know. Maybe Jack? Just saying. Now, fast forward to 2000, Universal went ahead and purchased some of the old props that were found in the House of Horrors. Now, we really don't know how from 1980 on Halloween night, this Jack box and the van and all mysteriously disappeared, and then 2000 Universal's like, hey, we'll buy it, because guess what, one of those old props was Jack's box, so Universal somehow purchased the box. However, as the years did pass leading to 2000 when Universal purchased the box as well as some of the old props and everything, there was an urban legend going around that if somebody went ahead and pretty much summoned Jack back by cranking that lever again on the box to release him, they would receive some special reward. And that's when it leads to 2000 in Halloween Horror Nights event. During that year, some great idea from a team member decided, hey, let me go ahead and open this box up and see if it's true. And guess what? Voila, Jack was introduced to Halloween Horror Nights during Halloween Horror Nights 10 in 2000, and that's pretty much how he leads up to today's history. Now, to make mention of the 2000 incident where he became part of Halloween Horror Nights officially, he was really kind of more of a spirit in a sense. He wasn't really all mortal himself. However, though, if you really dive into the depths of Halloween Horror Nights history and everything, you'll get involved with Terra Curentis, which we're actually going to see this year's event, and we're really excited for. But you also learn about something called Maldigan Pass, the Rat Run, and even something called the Lord of Darkness. Now, the Lord of Darkness actually was able to resurrect Jack himself and was able to make him mortal once again, so then Jack can pretty much continue to go on doing all of his pretty sinister stuff that we've known him to do.
However, after Jack did become mortal, he soon was caught by authorities and sent to Shady Brook Asylum. Apparently his presence there kind of stirred up something in the inmates, and they ended up starting a mass riot. So during this riot, they actually put Jack in charge of the facility, and then he was able to get the records and find out that his boss, or former boss, and murderer, Dr. Oddfellow, was still alive.
But Jack went ahead and left Shady Brook, seeking out Dr. Oddfellow at his Dark Carnival in Emporium, where in the late of the night, he went ahead and pretty much sealed Dr. Oddfellow's fate. And after Jack got his vengeance on Dr. Oddfellow, he pretty much changed from there, and that's where really we do get this momentous movement of Jack and rising into power. Now, during his incarceration of the carnival, he pretty much took over and made his own thing, and all the people that were working there pretty much, of course, worked under him as his little maniacs, and he created something called the Carnival of Carnage. Now, there are three major styles that we've seen Jack as. That is Jack as the Clown being one of them, and then the second one that we just mentioned, he is Jack the Ringmaster. Now, he opens up the Carnival of Carnage after traveling the world for a year looking for other people to add to his carnival, and he opened up in the beautiful city of Orlando.
And then in 2010, Jack received the title of Chaos, while him as well as the other past icons became the Minions of Fear himself.
Now, if you don't know who Fear is, he is truly the main icon of Halloween Horror Nights, because he's the one that's pretty much controlling all of this. He sees that everything is going on, and he has Jack pretty much take part of what he has planned out, and that's why Jack becomes pretty much the leader of this kind of category called Chaos. Now, there are 5 groups or categories that you want to call them, or icons that lead these roles, and Jack's one of them as Chaos. Then you also have the Usher, the Director, the Caretaker, and the Storyteller as the other parts too. And we're gonna get into like more detail about them in another video coming up in the future.
And then in 2015, Universal released a YouTube video of Jack's return, basically him walking into the camera and asking the audience if they missed him.
Which leads us to our 3rd major role for Jack, which is the rock star.
At this point, Jack's ego has gotten pretty big, and he kind of wants to show everybody that he's the boss, and he doesn't love that Fear is kind of controlling him. He wants to show everybody that he is better than Fear, so he puts on this big show for the 25th anniversary, and then on the last night of the event, he, as well as Chance, who is his assistant, I guess you could call her.
He was pretty much the mentor for Chance in a way.
So they are both captured the last night of the event for the 25th anniversary, and he's put back inside of his box.
So for the story of Jack, that's actually where it leaves off. That's the last time we got to see him. Now, I know this is the 30th anniversary and we know Jack's gonna be there. However, this is not the continuation of his story. This is supposed to kind of be more of a celebration of his character as well as all the other icons. So this is more of like one of those, just like I said, celebrations in a sense. It's not a continuous part of the story. So the question remains as, when will we really see Jack next? When will he come back? What role does he have? Or even how does he come back? Because he's back in his box, and I guess the only way to release him is by cranking that knob again or whatever, playing the music, which I'm not going to be the one to do that. I'm sure there's millions of people that would choose to do so.
So that's kind of the story of Jack, his background as well as his involvement in HHN throughout the years. That is pretty concise. There is a lot of detail to his story, so if you do want to learn more about Jack and all of the details, you can definitely look that up, but there is a lot to this story, as well as his involvement with the other icons and all of the lore in Halloween Horror Nights, which we will be doing videos on other history and icons, especially if you guys like that type of stuff. So if you do, leave a comment down below, let us know, and we would love to keep bringing you Horror Nights trivia and history.
So that's going to do it for us in today's episode for Countdown to HHN. We just wanted to go ahead and touch a little bit of information about Jack himself, since he will be present at this year's event, and we are so excited to see him as well as many of the other icons that are going to be making their presence for the 30th anniversary. So anyways, that's doing it for us, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video, and remember, we cannot wait to catch all of you guys in the fog this year. Peace out, guys.